Yeah, so many things. Yay! Oh, welcome. I am chatting with two of my beautiful friends today, who I met through the creation, which was the Institute of New Paradigm Intimacy. These guys mean a lot to me. I've been on their journeys with them. I don't even know how long. I've actually got goosebumps already, like just feeling it. Yeah, it's just been absolutely like, oh, just like opening my heart so much to watch you both just blossom. And yeah, I don't even know what to share because it's just, it just touches me so much. So I think I'm just going to hand it over to you two guys to introduce yourselves and share a bit about your stories and what it's been like for you since we've all come together to create this beautiful vortex. Do you want to go first, Lauren?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm getting all the heart expansions as well. It's so nice to be, starting the year with you, doing this first podcast live, back together after such a big journey. And yeah, just reflecting on the speed and the magic that it's all been, because we came together, not last September, I think it was the one before, when I was living in Bali and you were just starting the Institute of New Paradigm Intimacy, and I had been following you online for quite some time and really connecting with you, and the way things aligned for me to be wanting to offer my support and knowledge to someone else's organization that was doing something really aligned that I also could really learn from my own development journey was really in my space. And then you put a post up, I'm looking for an assistant and I need this, this and that and all these skills. And, you know, my Virgo just lit up. I'm like, it's all me, I can do this. And I would love to work with her. And we just got going straight away. And from that get-go moment, it was just full alignment, and we got to move things really quickly, which I know is your style. And just absolutely started rocking people's worlds and enrolling women into this course. And I enrolled in that course myself and got to go through this transformation with you and receive your transmission and teachings in such an amazing first-hand way, being a participant and also working behind the scenes on the business as well. And having your support to not only elevate what the Institute is and what your organization is, but also then take what I was learning and what I was receiving from you and apply that into stepping into my own service and my own work. And just always received so much support in that, and really had this experience of just being able to branch out and offer everything that the Institute teaches to people in my own work, and then be with you and be in that space of being in the visionary and coming up with all these incredible ideas, from then coming back and being in Australia during COVID and working really closely with you to like put all of these big visions of the organization on a whiteboard in your home, and then seeing them all manifest in the space of a few months has just been amazing, to then be able to spread my wings and bring that out into my own organization with my own unique flavor, and then still come and circle back and weave with you as well, and support this mission, which is just so important. And it's just having the opportunity to then facilitate the last round that Stephanie was in as well, and enroll her into the Institute, and now be here with her and seeing her thriving. And it just shows that like energy of paying it forward and letting people receive this activation and these teachings and then thrive in the same way has just been absolutely incredible. So it blows my mind to reflect on it. And one thing I said to a friend yesterday was, when you come into alignment with yourself and your life force and who it is you're truly here to be, it's amazing how quickly you can just quantum leap into your creations and who you be in the world. So just have so much immense gratitude for this journey and what it's been.
Amazing. And I actually want to share like even just a little bit of insight with the organization. You know, when Lauren first came on, it was like a huge weight off my shoulders. You know, I was doing so much on my own. When she came in, and then she also started studying like underneath me on a personal level, but also inside of the Institute. there was like a lot of anxiety for me, you know, as a leader. I was like, wow, I'm like bringing all these pieces to this woman, you know, what's going to happen if she leaves, you know, and I, like, that was my truth in that time. And it was so, like, I was convinced this was going to be like the worst thing ever if Lauren left, you know, and when actually like it all came to fruition that, you know, like it was like the moment for Lauren to leave the organization, it was interesting. There was like a calmness that came over my body, and I was like, oh, actually, this is perfect. It's exactly what I want for the whole of the organization, and not just for you. You know, it's like, it's not that I'd ever want you to leave, but I want everybody to flourish, you know? And I just was really attuned to that, like, death and rebirth and, you know, and nourishment of the cycles of life. And I just saw, you know, what that chapter created with us together, and what the going forward looked like from what you'd put together, and what had been given to this baby, which was the Institute of New Paradigm Intimacy, you know. And yeah, it was just a really profound moment for me to go, wow, like the universe really has both of us and nobody has to lose. And that was like, I was like, oh, this is the embodiment of what we've been talking about for so long, you know. And also like having the friendship and having the pieces behind that actually just like, I guess it's like backing our relationship and what we created, and having you as a student, and mentoring you, having all those pieces, but actually backing it with true love, you know. So, and for me, what that looks like is, you know, just actually like nobody loses and everybody wins, and we take care of each other inside of the breaking down of that relationship and building up of whatever the new relationship looks like in that emergence. And yeah, that really excites me, because that's what I feel like this new paradigm of business and everything gets to be, when we yeah, when it's not like this cutthroat business energy where people you know, disperse, and it's like, you know, the power dynamics are messed up. And I think that's actually what I mean as well when I say like this backing with this love and this energy, because yeah, it's like the power dynamics can actually disperse and change in any given moment. And that's something that I've been talking about a lot actually in the institute and a lot of in my organization. It's like, what happens when the power dynamics get to be in the transpersonal. And also, Stephanie, when we had a meeting yesterday, you know, there's going to be times when I need Stephanie to lead and I need to follow. And then there's other times when I need to lead and she needs to follow. And that goes for everybody in the organization. And for me, that's what new paradigm leadership looks like. And, you know, is a really core value inside of the Institute. And I feel, you know, excited about the embodiment of that as that's emerged, you know, in a lot of the relationships I've seen, and these ones in particular.
Yeah.
So grateful.
And just on that, with you sharing too, like what came through is like, I know when you were stepping into this and stepping into like this leadership space of your organization, you had like all of these questions around like, am I a good enough leader? And what does it mean to be a leader of an organization, and all of these things. But what's so beautiful, like with how you share now, is actually claiming your authority in that, because everything that you had learned through relating is now beautifully applied to how you bring through business. And it's so perfect, and so many pieces that many entrepreneurs and leaders of organizations don't have, that is really the piece that we need for this new paradigm of leadership.
Beautiful. Thank you. Stephanie, I would love you to share about your journey.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just sitting here reflecting on how beautiful that lack of power dynamic is. And that it's more like a dance, right? It really becomes more of a dance. And me coming from high level corporate world, and the executive, you know, just under CEO level, I was very used to power dynamics. That was how my world worked, right? And especially as a woman in the tech industry, I was always one of the only women on my team, if not the only woman on my team. And I got used to power dynamics very, very quickly in that old world. And one of the things that I actually talk about all the time is now being in this flourishing business that is only 6 months old. It's a baby business. It's so beautiful to lead in that new paradigm way, where we get to not have to have the responsibility of being the person with all the answers. Like, that's such a heavy weight that I don't want. That's a power that I don't want. I want to hire people that are smarter than me. I don't claim to have all the answers. And I love that I get to be in a space where I get to surround myself with people who are in that energy and who really get that like, it's not about because my face is on it, it's the Stephanie show. No, this is a movement. This is a collaboration that we are all like raising this baby together in my business. And I love seeing that in the Institute as well. And I really think that's something that makes new business really, really powerful. It's something that is really lacking in all organizations as far as I'm concerned. And it's really cool to see it come through in these beautifully run businesses all over the world.
Yeah. And I think a piece to reflect on that, like when you were sharing, Steph, is like, and even with the Institute and the way that the people come in my own business as well, is like trusting in the pool of who shows up. Like it is really, it just comes in, you know, like how synchronistically I came in and then you came in, Steph, and I then got to see how that played out in the Institute, and then calling in team members in my business. I'm like, I'm just going to trust in the magic, and I'm going to be really specific about the energy I want and that I feel, and allow these people to just feel pulled in by the vision and by the essence of the creation. And then they show up and they not only have that skill set that complements you, they're also, you know, receiving something from their journey as well. And that's it, like beyond what you set up as like a financial exchange in your organization, there's something bigger that, like, you know, Vic, you were sharing around what happens in the transpersonal relationships in organizations, is like, we can't even perceive what's happening on that level of like exchange that always has this equality to it, which is so beautiful to really reflect on as well, when you're not just hiring from this place of I need this, this and that. It's like, what's actually soul aligned to occur in this for everyone to have a transformation.
Yeah. And really trusting that, like, sorry, go ahead, Vic.
I was just going to say, it's a very scary place to live when you employ like that. You're like, okay, I'm trusting the magic. Like, it's going to come. But it always works out, like you said, Lauren. It's just an intensity in some moments of just like, okay, I trust.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steph.
Yeah, no worries. And it's so beautiful to watch that show up, not even just in hiring, like that definitely showed up in my business as well. The people that landed that are all over internationally, we don't actually have any North American employees. They're all in Venezuela and Zambia and Zimbabwe. And all of them felt that like soul call to come as a business. It's really cool. And the reason I was able to trust that was because I had that such a strong calling. I mean, the reason I joined the Institute was that kind of a soul calling. And it didn't make logical sense to me at the time. I was like this high level corporate person who had some numbness in their body. I kind of wanted to be a coach maybe someday, but like not in the near future. And the Institute kind of fell into my lap, and I just had this like visceral pull to it that really made no logical sense. Like when I look back, and even when I hold the calls with students that are enrolling into the Institute, it's such an interesting thing to share with them that I just felt this full body, like I need this, without having any clue logically in this logical brain as to why. And so much of this journey for me was about learning how to trust that, because it is so much more intelligent than this like little organ up here that is only seeing a certain number of steps ahead. It was so beautiful for me to have that experience, and then to get to meet Lauren and have that like full body yes to her mission and her values. And then we got to meet in Costa Rica through a weird like there's just so many weird things that happened that like make no sense, but we're obviously like divinely perfectly aligned. And that's what happens when you start to tap into this energy, is it just pulls you. It's like, this is where we're going. This is your evolution. You just got to trust. And whether that's hiring staff or expanding your business or launching a product or saying no to a client, like, you know, you just really work that trust muscle and learn how to be in alignment with yourself.
You definitely just led me to the perfect next question, which I have to ask you both. Is like your awakening of Eros in your bodies. You know, I want to hear about that. To me is a world. It's like when the Kundalini starts rising, you know, it's just like something's happening. And I want to hear about what it was like for that for you. Like, you know, also like what point when you were at the Institute did that start to happen? Like that's a curiosity for me as well. Whoever feels pulled to answer.
Yeah, I actually feel for me it was beginning for me before we connected, which is how the current really brought us together. Like I was starting this journey of going through a breakup earlier that year, And then really going deeper, like I was doing a lot of feminine embodiment work, and sexuality had come into my space. And so I started doing a lot of self-pleasure. I was like, I'm going to do this, 6-month celibacy, and I'm going to really focus on self-pleasure as a practice. And I was noticing like how quickly things were starting to shift in that. And then, you showed up in my dream space, and then everything was like, checking your post at the right time. It's like, yeah, you unlock, it is this connection to Eros, is the connection to the way life is leading you. So it's like, it makes sense with what Steph shared, like she was just pulled to it because it comes in as just this activation that cuts through all of the noise of our minds and all of our conditioning to come into truth and just start flowing with that. And then, coming into the course, it just deepened that. And I was starting to align with the right people, like the right communities of other, conscious entrepreneurs were coming into my space. So it's like, cool, I'm vibrating at this frequency now. So now these people are coming around me. And then when I stepped into relating again, it's like, oh, that had completely shifted and changed. And these people are now coming in to nourish and support me in my mission and the direction I'm going. And yeah, it's like the more that I worked with you and the more that I went through the practices in the Institute and integrated all of that in my life, everything, like I call it like the golden thread. It's like I was following that golden thread for a few years before, but it's like the thread started just going like this, like it had like such a stronger pulse, and it was just moving to like this next step and next step and next step. And it's like you are on this current and you just start to flow. And the more that you're connecting with your own practice and everything like that, it's just tuning in with life. And yeah, particularly last year, during COVID and quarantine and everything like that, like going really deeper into integrating these teachings as well. It's like you shed away more and more of feeling like you're necessarily in control. It's more so like having that, for me, it's like having intention and the inner knowing, but then trusting in that. And I think so much like why this work is so powerful is because, so many people in the world are in this place of distrust in the unknown, in the mystery. And what self-pleasure and what the modality and all the teachings does is bring you into trust and peace and pleasure in that mystery. And so then you have this deep level of trust in where you're going, and not only just trusting where you're going, but knowing that where you're going is fully in alignment with your unique vibration. So yeah, it's like connecting with your Eros and activating your Eros is like putting almost like a fast forward button on your life in a way, because you're just like, it's like I'm imagining just like sliding down this like slide, and you were trying to find which slide to go down before, but now you're like, oh, I'm on the right one. I'm just gonna like power down this and have the best time. And yeah, it not only affects where you're going in your direction and your purpose, but then who surrounds you in your relationships. And I see more and more in my life how, we talk about this a lot, like leadership, sexuality, business, relating, it all weaves together, because everything's always complementing you and your vibration and who it is you get to be. So, and not only that, you just find so much joy in life. And yeah, I feel the more that I connect in, and it is an ongoing journey. That's the piece too. Like the course is an activation and an opening and an awakening, but and I know we're probably going to lead into this, but it's the ongoing embodiment of these pieces where it gets to grow. And I still see that growing more and more in my life. And I'm just like, wow, like life actually does get to be better and better and better. And it's like, we get to actually experience and create our own heaven on earth by connecting to Eros and realizing, we are just here to live in this full fulfillment of our potential and create from that space.
It's so beautiful. I often, Lauren, to use your slide analogy, what I often say to my clients is that tapping into your Eros is like tapping into like rocket fuel, right? And you just go like into the stratosphere so quickly. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like, can I just like dial it back? And it's like, no, you're going. It's got a life of its own.
Yeah. Which often means, the stuff can come up quickly as well, which is something to be aware of, which I know you and I both mentioned. We had a bit of a 3-month period last year journeying, but you have the tools to know that, that's just bringing up all the muck to move through and elevate higher.
Yeah, shaking out the sediment for sure. I really resonated too with your story of like kind of, I hadn't really thought of it this way until this moment, but how you feel like you had the pull and your Eros was starting to activate even before you started working with the Institute. And in hearing that and reflecting back, I have a very clear moment where things shifted for me in my course, because it's such a powerful container. I mean, I had multiple death and rebirths in that 6-month container. I like came out a completely different human. But there's for sure one point where I felt like things kind of exploded for me. But hearing that reflection from you, looking back at it, I actually feel there was a time in November for me that I had a bit of a spiritual awakening. And that was where I started to be able to feel pulls in my body. And that was what pulled me to even, like host a retreat in Costa Rica that even got me to Costa Rica. That was what got me kind of curious about following people that were talking about sexuality. And I didn't really know why at the time, but I feel like that pull was already kind of starting to generate this like, hey, you need to do this thing. So that then when you guys all landed in my space, it was like, yeah, that's the thing, like boom. And it just kind of happened so quickly. But that energy, that pulling energy for sure was starting to like unearth itself. And I was starting to feel like, okay, well, what is this thing? What is this crazy energy that has just shown up in my body? That is completely changing the way that I relate with people, that is changing the types of conversations I'm willing to have. And at that time in my life, before being in the container and knowing what Eros was, it was a little bit alarming, to be honest with you, because I didn't have anyone holding me through it. I was just like, oh, all of a sudden I'm a different human and nobody seems to like that in my current reality. This is an interesting thing to journey. And then I landed into the course and everything started to kind of make sense. And I was like, oh, this is what's happening now. There's these things like Eros and there's Kundalini and there's all these new things, all these new energetic activations that can happen. And in the course, there was a really clear moment. I think it was module 4 when we started learning about, well, it was module 3, but it was after absorbing that when we started to really learn about the different energies, the light masculine, dark masculine, all of those. It was the module right after that. We had a self-pleasure practice that I resisted so hard. And you always resist the thing that's going to like make a big difference in your life, right? Like I resisted it so much. And finally one day I like set myself an hour and I was like, you're going to cry, but you're going to figure this out. Like I'm over the resistance. I like parented myself a little bit. We're going to figure it out. And that practice was like transformational for me. Just that one practice where it was like something clicked in my head and in my body at the same time, because I'd previously been in this like the body knew I needed it, but the head wasn't quite on board yet. So there was this like cognitive dissonance that was happening. And in that practice, everything just went, like the brain was like, I can get on board with this. And when that happened, everything was in alignment, right? Instead of my brain resisting what the body knew was necessary, everything was just in full pillar alignment. And we just like, yeah, I felt like that really shifted everything for me. All of a sudden, learning by transmission was easy. All of a sudden, sharing my journey was easy. People started finding me on Instagram. I think I exploded and well, low-key exploded. I think I went up like 500 followers without even trying, which for me was a big deal. Considering I was still a student and not really doing anything on Instagram. So yeah, it really kind of showed up in my reality. And that was early in the course, right? That's only a third of the way through the program. And then I just like rode that through to graduation.
I love that. I never even like knew those parts. I was literally just saying to the girls before we come on, it's like this course, like it transform. I almost like transformation is like a non-event in my reality now. Like it just happens. It's like there's these poppings that are around me. I was even speaking to Miroslav about this a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't know if I create transformation for people. I just have had the experience that people just start popping when in my reality around me. That's like how I experience things. So it's just so beautiful to hear. Just like one self-pleasure practice just literally like drops you into that level of embodiment that was able to almost shift your reality and how you start to receive things, so yeah. Interesting. I'm curious, like there's like something that I see with people that are feeling that kind of visceral pull into this reality, and something you just mentioned actually earlier, Stephanie, about like how some people do the work for however long and they've done all the self-development and that they know, and then there's like something that doesn't really shift. It's like some people can do this work forever and nothing changes. I have opinions that Eros makes it a little bit different. And I'm just curious whether you guys have anything to share on, like, you know, the embodiment pieces, because I think that's like a really important part of what this course is about, you know, shedding the conditioning, shedding the beliefs to access that rocket fuel that we're all talking to. So I'd love to hear anyone share anything about that.
Yeah, I feel what drops in on that is, like, until we've felt something in the body, we don't have true belief in it. Like, until we have an embodied experience of something we've learned, it's just here, but there's so much of our being that isn't on board with that. And I still am constantly having these experiences of when I more deeply embody something that I felt like I've known for so long, and then it lands through your erotic energy and you're like, oh, that's it. Or you even live the experience. I know for me, like, yeah, the way that I learn and the way that I show up in my leadership is I'll teach something that I've truly lived and embodied, like beyond just knowing it. It's like, okay, this is like being a lived experience. And that's like, that is following Eros. That is like allowing it to show you the way and show you the teachings through what you journey in an experiential way. And we even create this through our self-pleasure practices as well. It's like, it may not necessarily need to play out in our life, but it can play out in that our practice of what we journey in our bodies. And so, yeah, I feel it's like, and even when we're talking about transmission as leaders as well, it's like, that's how people can receive things so quickly. And that's how people receive your pieces so quickly in the course, Vic, because of your embodiment of it. It's not just you're teaching this knowledge that you know, you're teaching what you be in life. And so it's like as soon as you open people's bodies in that course, in that first self-pleasure practice, they're receiving what you've put into those teachings on a very energetic level. And so it not only, when we have that deep level of embodiment and knowing, it's like we not only become more powerful as individuals, but in the way that we get to share our teaching and our wisdom with others. And so, yeah, it's such a powerful piece, and for everyone to understand, it's like that, like even seeing, you know, the women that have gone through the course alongside me or in the last round, it's like, that's why it can be such a powerful piece for people who have been doing all this personal development and other modalities for so long, because it's all here. And then activating Eros, it's like, oh, it then just comes down and comes alive in the body, and they get to share that work more powerfully in the world and fully integrated. I think, yeah, the embodiment piece is the full integration of everything that you've really learned. And yeah, that's the rocket fuel piece for everyone that really steps into it. And yeah, to kind of reflect back on like what Steph shared about her experience in the course, I was just remembering that the big practice for me, I think, was the first week, like the heart and sex integration. It was like I was operating from a place where these are really separate. It's like, oh, my heart's operating over here and my Eros is operating over here. And when you unite the two, it's like, oh, cool, yeah, that's the alignment. And that's like, I can actually operate what I'm doing and what I'm creating in the world from a place of what my heart truly desires as well, which can often shake people up in who they're being and what they're creating too, because they may think and know, oh, this is what I'm an expert at, and this is what I really want to teach, and this is, you know, what I want to share. But then what's truly in your heart about your lived experience, and then what's happening, you know, in your sex of what you really want to create with that. And so I think that's when we not only bring through our knowledge, but we take the knowledge that we've learned and we apply that through our own lived experiences, which can create our own unique sharings in the world. Where, you know, for example, Steph and I are in our own ways sharing the work of the Institute, but it's coming through our own channel in our own transmission. And so I feel we need more of that in the world, rather than everyone's teaching this same modality. It's like, you know, how are you taking that modality, embodying it, igniting it with your own Eros, and then bringing that through into the world actually has so much more power.
100%. I love that piece that you just said as well. It's like, I have this, you know, when I first created the Institute, I was like, right, everybody needs to be a self-pleasure practitioner, you know, like that was my reality. I thought that's what I was creating. And then it's kind of emerged from that, you know, it's like, there's like this sexuality leadership piece is like just so important for the new paradigm and like what we're stepping into post COVID, you know, and all these pieces. And I'm seeing how like it's like weaving its way. It's like how Eros does. It's weaving its way into so many different sectors, you know, and we've got so many, you know, we've got like people that are doing trades and stuff that are having their businesses be more successful now. People that are in like corporate spaces that are getting promotions. It's like all these weird things that I'm watching. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how Eros wants to move this. And I think that's another perfect example is how you cannot control Eros. It's going to do its thing, you know? Yeah. And if you've ever had that experience of any watches of like sexual energy that starts to move in your body, it's like you don't choose that. That just starts moving. And I think this is the same sort of energy that we're speaking to. It's like that piece that lies underneath our preferences, you know, it's like that's when it starts to move.
Yeah, I love how it really just, you know, I joke with my friends, but it just doesn't give you anywhere to hide. And we even kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier too, even when it comes to, you know, purification and ascension, if you wanted to use those words as well. But yeah, Eros really doesn't give you anywhere to hide. It is its own life force energy that's going to move through you in the way that it just, and into this world in whatever way it wants to. And it's a matter of just like trusting and holding on to it. And for those people that are feeling, that are very heady, like this is why it was such a game changer for me, as I was very good at being disconnected from my body. Very, very good at that. And my whole life, I had literally spent just living like here up, and I've been very successful, had created a lot of material success in my life as a result of that. And coming into this course, fully, even though I had that, was starting to get that body pull, fully anticipated that this would be just like any other university or online course I had taken, that I could live in just in the head. I had never had the experience of true embodiment in my life. And hitting this course, at the very first thing is like, oh my gosh, okay, there's a body practice that I have to do, and I have to learn by this thing called transmission, and I don't really know what that is. And everything about the way the course is created just like 180'd me. I was like, what is this? And yeah, those first 3 modules, they were tough for me as a result of that, not because the material is hard, it's not, but because it required me to so viscerally change the way that I learn and show up in the world on like a key cellular level. And there had to be space for that transition to happen in my being. And we had to, like, things had to fall away for that to really be able to land. But when you start with integrating this Eros, like, you don't really have a choice. That's just, it's going to pull that into you, because that's the way that you being in alignment is, right? Like, that's just what alignment is in everybody's being. We're not meant to live up here. And it was such a beautiful experience to really journey that embodiment piece. And now to look back, and I can so clearly tell when somebody's teaching from the head and they haven't embodied their teachings. It's so prevalent in professional development. That embodiment piece just isn't really enforced in a lot of work. And I love that Eros like necessitates it.
And I think you can also feel when someone is teaching what isn't truly theirs either, like they're teaching what someone else has taught them, but not actually brought that into their being and then brought that information through in their own way. I can definitely feel that leaders as well.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. It's something that I'm really passionate about. It's also why I love the way that Eros has kind of like come through and brought this modality into people's experiences, because that's something that's been really there for me. You know, like a lot of my understanding of this modality that I've created has actually been from the practice itself, like witnessing people inside of their self-pleasure. And I really, you know, there's something, I even started doing more of that recently again, and I've just been seeing more and more come alive for me. And it's like, I love that experience of like sexual mastery. Like, that's what sexual mastery is to me. It's like deepening and deepening and deepening with this piece, which I think is really something I really see in you guys as well, as like your devotion to your work and to your soul's essence, you know. And that's something that I really think is beautiful about what a lot of the students, actually all the students that we've ever had at the Institute, is just like, they're just watching them step further into their soul's embodiment, and that's really been powerful. I'm curious, anyone else have anything they want to share? I feel to wrap up in a soon.
Yeah, I think just on that, just kind of closing everything up with when you do come into this alignment piece and follow Eros, it's like there's and coming into organizations and your mission and everything like that, whether you step into leadership or join somewhere else, there's like, the more connected we become with our Eros, the more that we come into like our natural flow of where we're meant to be. and have this deep level of trust in that. Like we, you know, the three of us were in this kind of like leadership, running organizations and building and things like that with our own unique flavor. But when other people come into the Eros, it's not always going to look the same. And actually, it's just like knowing that wherever you piece into the world holds just as much value.
Yeah.
Too, and really trusting that. It's like you might, like some people might be on this path of going into leadership and creating their own business, but then find they actually slot into this spot so much better. And I think, yeah, that's a big piece, because, you know, in this entrepreneurial space, there's so much pressure for everyone to be in leadership, but that actually can create less power and ability to create impact. So yeah, I think that's really the ultimate power of this, as well as how we weave in our collective ways through where we align ourselves is such a powerful piece in all of this.
Yeah, I really love that. And I loved when you just shared that piece about that was the heart practice that opened you up. And I'm like, of course it was the heart practice, you know, like that's exactly where you like lead life and business from. And I love that about your transmission, you know. And it's really something that I've been watching inside of my own transmission of how the Institute has almost birthed my transmission, you know, like I had so much fire that was just unruly, you know, and my Eros was unruly as well, you know, like I was like, you know, it's crazy seductress energies, like dark femme craziness all the time. And I've watched that just like cultivate through my body through this experience of birthing the Institute. And I see myself now, I'm like, oh, I'm quite calm, you know, like, and it's like, that was actually what was actually like cultivating and wanting to move through me. And I find that so many of us, and actually a lot of people I see come into the sexuality space in general, it's like we have these kind of big energies or like unruly energies, and they just seem to get like channeled into the experience of how they want to move. And for me now, it's like this, like I'm having this kind of feedback for the fire that I see. It's like the fire is now living outside of me, and it's stoking itself, you know, it's like a fire that continues to go. And I'm really appreciating that about the journey of sexual mastery in general. It just continues to have me feel in awe.
Yeah, and watching your journey, like what comes up for me is like when you really decide to do this work and you lean into Eros more than any other professional development or modality work that I've ever done. When you lean into Eros, it is so true that like anything in your reality is possible, literally anything. And Vic, I think you're such an amazing example of that, like birthing this like massive institute, the sexuality school, training practitioners now for coming on 4 rounds. Like this is not a small project. This isn't one-on-one coaching, which, you know, I love, don't get me wrong, but like this is a massive like world-changing movement that was birthed through you. And so much of Eros energy to me is about like whatever it is that your soul is like lit up to do, like that thing is possible. And it's so much bigger than what we think or are conditioned to think is possible. And it could be completely outside of that reality, right? Lauren was even saying like, you might think leadership because we're conditioned to think if you're going to do your own thing, you must be in leadership. But when you start leaning into Eros, it could be like completely on another planet, and that will make you so much happier and you'll feel so much more aligned. And it's been such a beautiful expression to realize that like we don't all have to be in this cookie cutter transmission or this cookie cutter world. We don't have to be in our own cubicle of sexuality, you know, we get to be whatever it is that is birthing through our body. And both of you are such amazing examples of that, actually.
Yeah. And reflecting on that, it's like, all my life I was like, oh, I've got so much like sexual energy. How do I use this? And we are conditioned to think that that's only towards sexual, intimate relationships. But now I'm like, oh, I've got so much, you know, sexual energy, the capacity to move through me, so I can create all of these things in the world. And so now I give myself permission to have all of these different creative projects that actually keeps that energy flowing, like how you shared, Vic. It's like, oh, it actually makes me feel more alive when I'm bringing that into creation and service and all these different things. And it's like it frees you because you're not holding all of this like bigness anymore. So I'm really, you know, grateful for that, to understand how my energy works and how it can be utilized in the world.
Totally. But I think I've experienced sexual frustration for however many years now, because this is not in my reality. There's so, like you said, you know how to use it now, so it's completely changed. So
and then sexual encounters more grounded and calm and like, oh, cool, because I've like put all this big energy out into the world, and now it's like yeah, it comes from a more heart-centered place rather than all like the, you know.
I love that. I really appreciate what you said, Stephanie, about you know, where people fit inside of things. And it's like, I actually feel like, you know, this is another thing, like I feel like I'm so much in my work now, so sharing this stuff on social media and sharing this stuff with the public is just not in my reality. But you know, we have a few, like quite a lot of people that are in the back end of the organization, working, that have been through the institute, and they found their, you know, their calling through that place. So I really love what we're sharing here about, it's not always about leadership and being, looking like, you know, I'm at the front of the thing and I'm the leader. It's like, actually leadership of your own life can look like, you know, working in a job that is actually nourishing you, and yeah, keeping your fire moving. So like that for me is something I feel really passionate about for the future as well of this organization. And we just got to take on another person who's not even completed round 2 yet. So I just those pieces are actually really what lights me up nowadays. It's like those are the little transformations that I'm like, oh, it's just amazing, you know. So yeah, I felt to share that. Well, thank you both so much for coming on and chatting with me today. And yeah, wishing you both the best on your ventures, which I'm sure are just coming to more and more fruition every day. And yeah, I love you both.
Thank you. Love you guys too. This was beautiful.